You wake up and feel tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the heavy, invisible kind. The kind that sinks behind your eyes and clings to your chest. The kind that makes you question everything. Why you are the way you are. Why you do the things you do. Why your life feels like something's missing, even when, on paper, it looks full. Most people never stop long enough to ask. They wake up, check their phone, scroll past other people's lives, drink something sweet or bitter, and walk into another day. But deep down, they carry it too, this quiet sense that something's not right. That something unseen is shaping the way they think, act, and feel. And they're right. Because there are forces that guide your life, even if you never gave them permission. They don't wear name tags. They don't shout. They whisper through memories, fears, habits, and instincts. And you listen, even when you don't realize you're listening. These are the invisible forces. And the most dangerous thing about them is that they look like you. The unseen hand. Every human being is shaped by things they didn't choose. The way you talk. The things that scare you. The dreams you gave up on. The way your shoulders tense in certain moments. These didn't just appear. They were built. Layer by layer. Moment by moment. Word by word. Long before you could fight back, you were absorbing everything. The way your parents looked at each other when they thought you weren't watching. The tone in your teacher's voice when you made a mistake. The feeling in your stomach when you said something true and the room went quiet. You don't remember these things clearly. But they shaped you. They sculpted your nervous system. They taught you what is safe to feel, to say, to want. And now, without realizing it, you live by those silent lessons. You stop yourself from speaking. You overthink messages. You seek approval. You procrastinate. You lash out. You freeze. And the worst part? You blame yourself for it. You call it laziness. Or weakness. Or being too much. But that's not what's really going on. What's happening is this. You're living by a script you didn't write. The early blueprint. Imagine your mind like a house. Most people think it's something they built. That they designed every wall and painted every color. But the truth is, most of it was built for you before you even knew what a house was. And those early builders? They were doing their best. But their best wasn't perfect. They gave you walls where you needed windows. Locked doors where you needed open space. And mirrors that made you look smaller than you really are. They didn't mean to. But they were scared too. They had invisible forces shaping them, and they passed those down to you. Their fears became your caution. Their shame became your silence. Their disappointments became your limits. You didn't choose this house. But you've been living in it your whole life. And now you wonder why the light doesn't come in. Why the same arguments keep happening. Why you feel stuck even when everything's fine. It's not your fault. But it is your responsibility to look around, name what you see, and slowly start remodeling. Why most people don't change. You can't change what you won't face. And most people won't face the truth because it hurts. It's easier to scroll. To blame. To distract. To say I'm fine and keep moving. But deep down, they know. They know something feels off. That life has become a performance. That they're living behind a mask even they don't believe anymore. And you know it too. That's why you're here. You're not looking for a quick fix. You're looking for the truth. Even if it's uncomfortable. Even if it changes everything. Because deep down, you're tired of carrying other people's expectations. Other people's voices. Other people's fear. You want to hear yourself again. And more than that, you want to trust what you hear. The illusion of that's just who I am. People cling to identities like life rafts. I'm just not good at that. I'm a people pleaser. I've always had anxiety. I'm the responsible one. I'm the black sheep. We say these things like facts. But most of them aren't facts. They're stories. Stories we started telling ourselves to survive, to stay safe, to make sense of chaos. And now, they've become cages. The truth is, you're not one thing. You never were. You're not a fixed identity. You're a process. But the longer you tell the same story, the more you become trapped inside it. You forget that you can write something new. Not overnight. Not perfectly. But sentence by sentence. Choice by choice. First, you have to notice the old story. Then, you have to get curious enough to ask where it came from. And finally, brave enough to stop telling it, even if you don't yet know the next chapter. When you realize you've been living for others, one day, something shifts. You look around and realize you've been living a life that isn't truly yours. The job you took? It was to prove something. The relationship you stayed in? It was out of fear. The things you say, the clothes you wear, the things you dream of, all shaped by someone else's voice. It's a heartbreaking moment. Because you realize you've been living as a mirror, reflecting everyone else's desires and losing sight of your own. But it's also a beautiful moment. Because it's the first time you truly see yourself. Not the version you perform. Not the one that wins approval. But the one underneath. The you that's been waiting, patiently, quietly, to be noticed. And now that you see them, you can't go back. This is the start. There are forces shaping your life right now that you still don't see. Ideas you've inherited. Scripts you've absorbed. Limits you've accepted. And that's okay. You're not supposed to see it all at once. Awakening isn't an explosion. It's a flicker. A moment of clarity that turns into a question. Which turns into a search. Which turns into a new kind of peace. The kind that doesn't come from changing your life, but from finally understanding it. This is part 1. The beginning of a long, honest look at what drives you. If you're here, you're already ahead of most. You don't need to rush. Just keep noticing. Because the more you notice, the less control those invisible forces have. And one day, you'll look back and realize you didn't just wake up. You came home. You don't remember the first time you made yourself smaller. But it happened. Maybe someone laughed when you showed too much joy. Maybe someone got angry when you asked for too much. Maybe the people you needed love from only gave it when you were quiet, helpful, impressive, or invisible. So you started editing yourself. You trimmed the parts that felt too loud. You buried the parts that felt too tender. You highlighted what got approval. And you hid what didn't. Over time, it became automatic. The roles you played stopped feeling like roles. They just felt like you. But they weren't. They were stories. Clever, adaptive, survival-based stories that helped you fit in, feel safe, and avoid pain. You needed those stories. They protected you. They were armor. But now, they've become cages. You've outgrown the story, but you still live by its rules. You still apologize for existing. You still chase validation like a dog chasing a car. You still shrink in rooms where you want to be seen. You still believe you have to earn rest, love, safety. And you don't even know where that belief came from. You just feel it, heavy, quiet, constant. That's the power of stories. They don't need to be true to shape your life. They just need to be repeated. And you've been repeating yours for years. Maybe your story is that you're only lovable if you achieve. So you stay busy, chase success, burn out, break down, and start again. Because stopping feels like disappearing. Maybe your story is that you're always the problem. So you apologize for things that aren't your fault. You take on everyone's emotions. You twist yourself into shapes so others stay comfortable. Maybe your story is that you're too much. Too emotional. Too intense. Too weird. So you tone it down. You filter your joy. You silence your pain. And then wonder why you feel hollow. Maybe your story is that you're not enough. So you keep striving. Keep comparing. Keep proving. And it never ends, because the goalposts keep moving. These stories live in your nervous system. They speak in your inner voice. They guide your choices. And until you name them, they control you. But once you do, even just once, something starts to shift. You feel a flicker of rebellion. What if I'm not broken? What if I've just been following a bad script? That question alone is enough to start a quiet revolution. Here's the truth. Most of your emotional suffering isn't about what's happening now. It's about the stories from your past still running in the background. Someone once taught you that love is earned. So now you overfunction. Someone once taught you that anger is dangerous. So now you freeze when you need to speak. Someone once taught you that vulnerability gets you hurt. So now you hide, even from people who love you. These are not flaws. They're patterns. They were logical, smart, and necessary at the time. But they're not helping you anymore. And that means they can be unlearned. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But little by little, like untying a knot that's been tight for years. Every time you notice the story, you loosen it. Every time you pause and ask, whose voice is this? You weaken its grip. Every time you respond differently, even in a small way, you rewrite the ending. The most powerful shift happens the moment you realize. You are not the story. You are the one telling it. And you can tell a different one. Not some shiny, perfect, delusional fantasy. But something honest. Grounded. Hopeful. Real. A story where you're not a victim or a villain, but a human being. Flawed. Growing. Learning. Brave. A story where you are allowed to rest. Allowed to feel. Allowed to want. Allowed to begin again. You are not a fixed identity. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are not trapped by the role you played to survive. You are the author now. And the next chapter is still blank. So ask yourself, with no judgment, just honesty. What story have I been living? And is it still true? If it's not, if it's keeping you small, silent, stuck, then it's time to write a new one. You don't need anyone's permission. Just your own. Because the moment you stop performing, the healing begins. And the life that was waiting for you all along, the life you were meant to live, starts to return. Not because it's been created from scratch, but because it's been yours the whole time. Just waiting beneath the story. Most people think they make decisions based on logic. They don't. They make them based on fear, then find a logical excuse afterward. That's not an insult. It's not a weakness. It's biology. Your brain is wired for safety. Not truth. Not joy. Safety. And fear? Fear is the loudest safety signal of all. It doesn't whisper. It roars. It tells you to say yes when you mean no. To stay quiet when you want to speak. To hold back when your soul wants to leap. Fear tells you, don't rock the boat. Don't take up space. Don't change, people won't like it. So you stay the same. You shrink. You play it safe. And you call it being realistic. But it's not realism. It's survival mode. It's living like you're still stuck in the past. When something small could make the world around you unsafe. Maybe it was your parents' anger. Maybe it was rejection at school. Maybe it was a moment when you were vulnerable and someone laughed. Whatever it was, your brain learned a lesson. When I show who I really am, I get hurt. And now, decades later, you still live by that rule. Even if no one's laughing anymore. Even if no one's watching. Even if you've outgrown the danger. Because the fear never updated. It just got smarter. Quieter. More convincing. Now it sounds like your inner critic. Like your anxiety. Like your need to please everyone. But it's still fear. And it's still running the show. Think about the biggest decision you've been avoiding. The one that lingers in your mind late at night. The one you always find reasons to delay. Maybe it's leaving something safe. Maybe it's starting something uncertain. Maybe it's just being honest. Whatever it is, ask yourself, if I wasn't afraid, what would I do? That question can crack something open. Because sometimes the life you want is just one brave moment away. One text. One boundary. One decision. But fear makes it feel like a cliff. Like if you jump, you'll fall forever. You won't. What you'll fall into is your real life. Yes, it's scary. But fear isn't a stop sign. It's a signal you're on the edge of something important. Fear doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're walking away from who you were and into who you might become. Here's the truth. You will never be fearless. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop letting fear decide your life. To hear it, but not obey it. To feel it, but move anyway. That's courage. And courage is a muscle. You build it by doing small hard things, daily. Say what you mean. Ask the question. Stand your ground. Show the real you, not the filtered version. Each time you do, the fear shrinks. Not because it's gone, but because you grew. Fear is loud, yes. But it's not your enemy. It's just a signal that says, this matters. So when it shows up, listen. Then move anyway. Because the most dangerous thing isn't fear. It's living your whole life around it. You weren't made to stay safe. You were made to be free. And freedom isn't found in comfort. It's found in courage. One step at a time. There's a voice in your head. It sounds logical, reasonable, even wise. It says, just wait a little longer. Happiness is coming right after this one thing. Maybe it's when you finally lose the weight, when you get the job, when your parents understand you, when someone falls in love with you, when you prove them wrong. Then you'll be happy. That's what the voice says. But here's the truth. That voice is a trap. Because no matter what you achieve, it moves the finish line. You get the thing, and it whispers, not yet. Just a little more. It's the voice of endless waiting. The voice of conditional joy. It tells you that now isn't enough. That you aren't enough. Until something external changes. And when that external thing does change, it feels good for a moment. Then the emptiness creeps back in. Because you weren't chasing the goal. You were chasing a feeling. A feeling that can't be found in outcomes. Only in presence. I'll be happy when is a beautiful lie. It keeps you striving. It makes you productive. It makes you appear successful. But inside, you're always chasing. Always waiting. Always almost there. You look at your life and wonder, why don't I feel better by now? Because deep down, you've built your identity on achievement. And when you stop running, you don't know who you are. So you keep running. But running doesn't fill the hole. It just distracts you from it. Real peace comes when you stop waiting for life to begin. When you realize that this moment, even in its mess, its confusion, its imperfection, is already part of your story. Not a pause. Not a waiting room. The story itself. When you stop seeing happiness as something to earn, and start seeing it as something you can feel now, in small, quiet, unremarkable moments. Not on stage, not in the applause, but in a walk, a laugh, a deep breath, a good cry, a sunset. That's where it lives. But you have to stop and look. You have to stop waiting and start being. The lie of "I'll be happy when" will steal decades from you. It'll make you a stranger to your own life. It'll convince you that you're never enough. But you are. Not someday. Not when you fix everything. Right now. Right here. Not because everything's perfect, but because you're still here. Still trying. Still becoming. And that matters. So let go of the finish line. Start living the life that's already in front of you. Because happiness isn't a destination. It's a way of being with yourself. And you don't have to wait for it anymore. There's a heaviness inside you. Sometimes it shows up as anxiety. Sometimes it's shame. Sometimes it just feels like exhaustion. A weight you can't explain. And no matter how much you rest, or achieve, or heal, it doesn't go away. Because it's not yours. Not fully. You're carrying things that don't belong to you. Stories. Expectations. Guilt. Fear. The unspoken grief of generations. The voices of people who didn't know how to love you properly. You picked it up without realizing. As a child, you learned how to stay safe. So you took on roles. The responsible one. The quiet one. The fixer. The achiever. The people pleaser. The one who never complains. And little by little, you started confusing who you are with what you do. You built an identity from what made you feel needed. And you forgot that you were allowed to simply be. You carry your parents' fears. Their pain. Their silence. Their survival strategies. You carry teachers' judgments. Friends' betrayals. The quiet rejection of not being chosen. You carry culture. Belief systems. Religious rules. Invisible pressure. You carry secrets you never told. And stories you were told about yourself that weren't true. Too sensitive. Too much. Not enough. None of it yours. But you made it yours. Because that's what humans do when we want to be loved. We adapt. We shrink. We apologize for existing. But at some point, the weight becomes unbearable. Not because you're weak, but because it was never yours to carry in the first place. Healing isn't just about adding new things. It's about releasing what you were never meant to hold. It's about asking, is this belief mine? Is this pressure mine? Is this fear even real or just inherited? Most of what shapes you wasn't your choice. But what you carry forward is. You get to choose. To let go of guilt that was never yours. To stop performing for love. To stop proving your worth. You get to say, I'm tired. And I want to come home to myself. Not the self they told you to be. The one that existed before the world taught you to be afraid. You are not broken. But you are buried. Under layers of shoulds. Under other people's disappointments. Under a lifetime of trying to earn your place. You don't have to stay buried. You can dig yourself out. One breath at a time. One boundary at a time. One quiet, brave no more at a time. Let the grief come. Let the rage come. Let the tears come. Because it hurts to realize how much you carried just to be accepted. But on the other side of that grief, freedom. Not the kind that looks impressive. The kind that feels like rest. Like belonging. Like remembering who you were before the world got to you. And no one can take that from you. Because it's yours now. And you're allowed to live light. Even if others choose to stay heavy. You've heard it in whispers, in rolled eyes, in silence after you shared too deeply. You're too much, too emotional, too intense, too loud, too quiet, too complicated, too sensitive. It's never really about what you are. It's that you are something someone else didn't know how to handle. And instead of questioning their capacity, you started questioning your existence. So you made yourself smaller, less expressive, less honest, less you. You learned to laugh quieter, cry in private, feel less, ask for nothing. You became easy to be around, but hard to recognize in the mirror. Here's the truth: you were never too much. They were just too limited, too uncomfortable with truth, too disconnected from feeling, too distracted by performance. Your depth made them confront their shallowness. Your honesty made them face what they were hiding. Your desire for more made them feel exposed in their own numbness. That's not your fault. And it never was. Too much is often just code for too real. In a world that thrives on filters, pretending, and staying surface level, realness is disruptive. Being fully alive in a world that's half asleep? That's power. But it comes at a cost. You'll be misunderstood, rejected, misjudged. But you'll also be free. Free to feel the entire spectrum of your emotions. Not just the ones that make others comfortable. Free to speak truth, even when your voice shakes. Free to want love that's deep, messy, and mutual. Free to stop apologizing for existing with passion. You weren't born to be liked. You were born to be real. And the right people? They won't flinch when you're honest. They won't need you to dim your light. They'll meet you're too much with. Finally, someone else who gets it. Because you're not too much for everyone. Just for the wrong ones. But first, you have to believe that. You have to stop trying to be digestible. Stop trying to fit in rooms not built for people like you. Stop begging to be accepted by people who don't accept themselves. You have to believe you are not a problem to solve. You are a person to be seen. You are not too emotional. You are emotionally alive. You are not too intense. You are just undiluted. And that is rare. That is needed. That is sacred. So take up space. Speak the unspoken. Feel deeply. Demand more. Laugh louder. Love harder. Exist fully. You don't have to shrink anymore. You don't have to apologize for what makes you vivid. This world has enough numbness. Be fire. Be flood. Be you. Too much? No. You are just right for the life you were meant to live. There's a kind of loneliness no one talks about. It's not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling unseen. Because you're not really there. Only a version of you is. A curated version. A masked version. A version you think people will accept. You laugh when you're supposed to. You nod in agreement. You play the part. And people like it. They like you, or so it seems. But deep down, you know. They don't really know you. Not the parts you keep hidden. Not the fears, the quirks, the questions, the dreams. They like your role. Not your reality. And that emptiness? That quiet ache? That's what happens when we trade belonging for approval. From the beginning, most of us were taught to perform. To be good. Be quiet. Be helpful. Be nice. Fit in. Don't offend. Be liked. We learned early what parts of us were too much. What dreams were unrealistic. What feelings were dramatic. What truths were inappropriate. So we started editing ourselves. Softening the edges. toning down the colors, being who the world seemed to want. But here's the cost. Every time you shrink to be liked, you forget how to belong. Because true belonging never requires you to be less. So how do you stop performing? It starts with one terrifying, beautiful thing. Honesty. Honesty about what you feel, what you need, what you believe, what you're afraid of. That doesn't mean spilling your soul to everyone. It means choosing truth over image, connection over control, real over safe. It means speaking even when your voice shakes, leaving when a space isn't meant for you, staying when things get vulnerable, not convenient, saying, "This is me," and letting go of who leaves because of it. Belonging isn't about being accepted by everyone. It's about being authentic with someone. Even just one person who sees the real you and says, "I'm not going anywhere." But before others can say that to you, you have to say it to yourself. You have to stop abandoning yourself in moments of discomfort. Stop shapeshifting just to feel safe. Stop performing a life that isn't yours. You have to come home to the parts you exiled. The angry part. The sad part. The weird, wild, hopeful, broken, dreaming parts. They're not mistakes. They're maps. They're you. This is your permission slip. You're allowed to be difficult to understand. You're allowed to need more. You're allowed to outgrow people. You're allowed to stop performing. Because your life isn't an audition. You're not here to be cast in someone else's play. You're here to live your own story. Fully, deeply, vividly. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You just need to be loved by you. And when you finally drop the mask, when you stop performing, you'll be shocked by who still stays. Not because you're easy, but because you're real. And real is rare. Final words. You were never too much. You were just in the wrong rooms. You were never broken. You were just bending to survive. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be yourself, completely. And the people, the dreams, the places that matter, they'll find you there. Not in your performance, but in your presence. So here, at the end of this path, one truth remains. You don't have to earn belonging. You already belong. To yourself. To this world. To the life that's waiting when you stop pretending and finally show up. As you are. No mask. No performance. No apology. Just you. Finally, you.